No, you didn't miss the entire book stream. I just have a number of books that we're covering today. We hit a couple essays from Black Nerd Problems, and I want to spend a little bit of time with another book that has been really important for me lately. I don't know how much of it I can read. Like, I know when I'm bringing up the Black Nerd Problem stuff that nobody's gonna come in and be like, how dare you read my copywritten material on your stream, because they're both here. But this next one is called Black Imagination. Hey, what's up, Base? Good to see you. And no big deal, like, definitely lurk away, like, totally cool. This next book is called Black Imagination. It is a series of essays, reflections, rituals from Black folks from all over the place. And I gave a little bit of a heads up before that, like, the way that I actually found this book was that my sort of second mom reached out and sent this to me, and I wasn't exactly sure what it was going to mean to me to read it. And I will admit that there are some places where it almost feels like there are places where I feel like, oh, I'm supposed to feel something here, and I'm not sure if I feel the right thing. Kind of like what Lama was saying earlier about having this sort of interaction with, like, the way that world has an expectation for sort of like our POC-ness, or I think in any number of ways, the ways that particularly marginalized folks, like, what are the ways that I'm supposed to interact with spaces that represent my marginalization. But there are also, I think one of the things that's so powerful about this book are the just widespread ways that there are just, like, various emotion, various writing styles. Some things are really uplifting and hopeful. Other pieces are really despondent or angry. And, like, all of those things are part of this Black experience. And it was just, I think, really heartening to be able to experience all of these different perspectives and recognize that my perspective is one of those perspectives too. I think the other thing I really appreciate about this book that it informed me as a writer also is that, like, these pieces are very short. And I think that there's a part of me that feels like, oh, if it's not a 5,000 word whatever, it's not relevant, it's not done, it's not whatever. It needs to be this full, heavily researched essay. But, like, reading the Black Nerd Problems essays and Black Imagination at the same time kind of gave me this, like, no, it's just valid to share a thought. That thought can be complete and valid and researched and have confidence in just its own existence, and that is valid too. So Black Imagination is broken up into a number of different sections, and each of those different sections kind of curates the themes or ideas that are inside. And so the first section is called Imagine, which makes sense because the book's called Black Imagination. And the first piece I want to read is from it's the reflection from a person named Reagan Jackson out of Seattle, Washington. When I wake up, there is someone there who loves me. When I leave my home, the people living on my street know my name, know my parents' names, name and claim me as their own, drop by with soup when I'm sick and small gifts during holidays. And I do the same for them. We break bread together. We laugh and dance and work and build together. Wherever I go, I am known and I know others. We greet each other with smiles and hugs. Our expressions are always genuine. We don't hide resentments between clenched teeth or anger in clenched fists. We say the words that need saying. We speak and listen and forgive and understand. We are peaceful in our hearts and actions, and our peace is never built on the sacrifice of another's peace. Our community is not built on the suffering of others. We live in balance. never taking more than we need, never needing so much we can't sustain ourselves. And each of us are honored and valued and respected as equal members of a collective, irrespective of age, ability, ethnicity, gender, or any other political descriptor. We bring all of who we are. And I don't know, there's just something about that where it's just the concept of like the mental exercise of taking the imagination and visualizing like what could it be? What is the thing you want? It doesn't matter like how do you do it, just what's the thing that you want? And like it's okay and valid to live in and create that space. Sometimes you have to create the vision and then the steps and the tools to get there. I'm really bad at that. I'm like, oh, here's a vision, but here's all the ways it can't happen. And this book says like, I don't care. Like, this is me. This is my imagination. This is my dream. This is my place. This is what I'm making. Hey, what's up, Anna? It's great to see you. And Smackian, welcome in. And Base, I gotta say, I'm incredibly thankful for both of these books right now. In fact, let me find a link real quick to, is it blackimagination.com? I know there's a website. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. Also, this the music that we're listening to right now is the soundtrack is called lives.We. It's by the folks at it's actually an album put out by the folks over at Riot in combination with a number of lo-fi artists. It is a creator-safe collection of lo-fi music, so you can find more information about that music here. And then let me find Black Imagination. Is this the same thing? Black Imagination book. Oh, it is. It's part of the same. Here we go. So you can find this book, Black Imagination, here. Oh, and it looks like it's got an audiobook Lena Waithe might be involved in? I don't know. But it's, yeah. It's very good. Please make sure also that you're following Sharkiana, as always. Who is another absolutely freaking phenomenal streamer, and a good friend of mine. I don't know if you're streaming. Are you streaming tonight? What's the game tonight? Romowski, welcome back. It's been a minute, but I'm glad to see you here. If I recall correctly, you were floating around during the Walking Dead days, and things are a little different now. we're spending some time with some books that have been really restorative to me over the past few days and weeks. Oh, vacation in Texas. I hope it went well. I hope you had a good time. We were reading some selections from this book, Black Imagination, and I want to read not just the ones that feel resonant to my experience, but also again provide sort of the wide range of experiences in here, because right after this one is a piece from Ebo Barton, who's also from Seattle. And they say, in a world where I feel safe, valued, and loved, there would be skyscrapers filled with chairs where cisgender, able-bodied, affluent, straight white men and women could take several seats for months at a time. We call them greenhouses to ensure their growth and sweat from sitting down. Black and indigenous women, trans women are women, would burn down what they wished. after taking a long vacation from not having certain people around. Lead what they wanted. Appoint trustworthy rebuilders. Masculinity would be checked and have its own skyscraper. I would live there for months. I would return to new society unapologetically soft and willing. I would know growth and sweat. I would be unafraid to call myself man, to call myself transgender man. I would be a mixed black transgender man and still be soft and willing and not hated and not afraid. My art would be art and not always be brave. It wouldn't have to be political because of who I am. My art would be art and not always be activism when I wasn't even trying to be. My art would be happy sometimes. People would consume my art because it was art. I wouldn't need to put on my white woman voice to get bills paid, or discounts, or attention. I could just be myself. Maybe not have to pay bills, or need discounts, but I'll always need attention. In a world where I feel safe, valued, and loved, I could walk down the street in any neighborhood at any time and not wonder if it is my blackness, brownness, racial ambiguity, transness, gayness, or gender ambiguity that is killing me. Like, there's just this moment where they're like, no, take several seats, take all the seats, you know, but even there's such a blending of the pain and process that I think is really powerful in that piece. And the idea that it's like, yeah, you're gonna sweat in here, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but there'll be growth. And the idea that, like, they even recognize, they're like, yep, there's some spaces I have to sit in here and I have to sweat, but when I come out, I'll be soft, and this space will be better for me, and I will be better for this space. And I just, yeah, really good. What else did I really enjoy in here? I mean, like, I enjoyed all of them, frankly, but there were some pieces that I felt like just really hit for me. Yeah, I really liked this one. Jen Moore, who's also from Seattle. Yeah, I'm glad you folks are enjoying this. I really like books. I really like books. I like reading. I love reading. It's like I kind of forgot. It's extending more grace than I would to others, and something I like to try to remember, that growth is possible for others, even if select people try to prove that wrong. Yeah, real talk. Like, but I do try to remember, like, we see the worst people, right? The folks, the systems that we exist in, and the ways that we see, especially people that we don't know, are funneled through the lenses of social media. And we know that the things that are the most successful on social media are the things that are the most successful on social media are the things that are the most inflammatory. We don't generally hear a bunch of stories about people who are like, hey, I was kind of not great, and then I learned some lessons, and I kind of got better, but I'm still working on it. That tweet is not going to be particularly successful, you know? And so, yeah, I do think it's important to remember, like, I think there's more hope out there than we think. But it's really hard to remember that when all we focus our vision on are the cases that probably for the most part actually are hopeless. Like I'm not gonna say that everybody's out there with an opportunity for change, but I think there are plenty of people out there who are. Are these poems? These are readings from a book called Black Imagination. And some of them are poems. Some of them are just kind of short essays, and but all of them are kind of centered around a theme, and are all from Black folks. Kind of interest you in queer sci-fi. I've been writing and looking for some beta readers. You should definitely post that, and I would definitely check that out. I think that would be really cool. I do want to make more space to also like really appreciate and engage in the stuff that we create as an Intelligame community. Gosh, I wish I could teach you Intelligame captioner. Intelligame. See, okay, there we go. We got it that time. But not high C. I don't know what that's about. Hot take of the night, I really like books. Well, it's probably the first time I've said that in a while on stream, friends. This is a piece from Jen Moore in Seattle, and this is again another piece around that theme of imagine. Imagine the energy and the magic of me was known. Imagine each nap on my head was given credit for its place in the spiral of existence, for helping us swirl together so beautifully like this. Imagine my skin was akin to the black blanket that keeps the stars warm. Imagine the twinkle in our baby's eyes was called the stardust of us. Imagine knowing I am the love I seek. Imagine if the world knew I was perfect. Imagine my bills paid on time. I think it might feel like my shoulders easing. My molars would no longer play pestle and mortar to my dreams, grinding them down into nothingness. I'd like to have enough money to pay my bills on time, or at least not feel like a failure when I don't. I think the rage might subside, at least a bit, if the world took its foot off my neck long enough for me to whisper to the earth what I had found out, and that I'm sorry for what's happened. It might look like feeling no guilt about who I love and how I love. I want to love them too, but they make it so hard sometimes. Let me get better. Imagine a world where I am safe, valued, and loved. Sensitivity would return to the deepest reaches of us. There would be lunch breaks to stick your face in the sun and calisthenics to get us moving and flowing together. In my world, all the babies would be loved, and when the new little ones were born in the world and into my family, we would revel in the darkness of their skin and praise them for reminding us of who we are. We would love the dark in my world. We would love the naps in my world. We would love in my world. Genius people would no longer need EBT. I will keep imagining until my story is clear, until my vision comes together. There's a certain beauty from Jen's essay in like there are these moments where it gets so artistically minded and so conceptual and so visually beautiful, and then capitalism shows up and is like, hey, I'm gonna be an asshole, and like it to me feels so representative of this moment, that there are so many things that there are so many ways that we can like conceptually grip the imagination of like what the world could be, and then they're still just like, yeah, but I gotta pay these bills though. and it's just like right when you feel like you're hitting this stride, and you're like, yeah, this is wonderful, this is natural, this could be something. But money though, like, and also the ways that Jen acknowledges or recognizes the, like, maybe I'd be less angry if I didn't have to worry about this shit, right? Like it's not necessarily that everything would be fine, but I can recognize that, like, not being able to pay my bills, having to worry about being on EBT, like, that has to be part of that is part of my imagination. It's not just like, oh, I'd love to be in fields of wheat or whatever, but, like, also I'd love to not be stressing over this capitalist bullshit. And, like, that doesn't have to be a dream. Like, that is the money held by Daddy Bezos, Dick Rocket 1.0. Like, the wealth, the tools, the means are out there. So yeah, I think that essay is fantastic. That piece is amazing. There are some other subjects in here that I think are really cool too. The next section is called healing, and I think this was the part where I really started to kind of sink into it, because it was these pieces that were about what people do to heal. And I think this part, Reagan Jackson again from Seattle. First, I listen. This is hard when my feelings are screaming, when my body, my heart, the pieces of me are aching. Sometimes it's easier to talk, to pray, to complain, to beg, to demand. I do these things too. But then I listen, and I follow. There's a guiding star that talks to me. I don't know her name or even her language. Mostly, she is a dream walker of pictures, sounds, and feelings, and I awake knowing what is mine to do. Is she ancestor or unborn child, guardian angel, spirit guide, or interdimensional healing practitioner? I don't know. I just know that when I listen and I follow directions, healing happens. Sometimes there's a ceremony involved. Candles or water, writing letters or burning pictures, the release of song or tears. At these times, I feel most acutely the loss of my cultural traditions. We, the children of the unchosen diaspora, the progeny of the stolen, the kidnapped, the shackled, the tortured, the enslaved, are in many ways still lost. Lost to our heart language, lost to our indigenous practices. We pray to white Jesus, God of colonizers, and wonder why our prayers aren't answered. With no disrespect to Jesus, to Buddha, to Allah, to any of the gods who come around here. But we are not the daughters of Jacob and Abraham, but of ocean. So long estranged, I can only listen and guess, make do with plastic cowrie shells and white fabric, pray in English, and hope that there is something beyond my colonized words, that some part of me is still me enough to be heard and healed anyway. So good. There's another piece in here that I have to there are a couple pieces actually I have to go in here, and there is also a part of me that I will admit feels a little I'm not sure how out of pocket I am for reading pieces from folks who are not my background, you know, for instance, reading pieces from like Black women or from trans folks, or like so I do make space for, like, I might not be the right vehicle for some of these pieces, but I do so appreciate the ways that they lent their stories and their energy to me through these readings. So I'm happy to have an opportunity to share them with you, and I hope that I'm being respectful in that process. I love how we worry about this. We know some people don't. Yeah, like there's an episode of Atlanta where there's this white guy who's doing a spoken word piece he calls New Jim Crow or whatever, and you're just like, Atlanta is such a good show, and wow, we really should have a third season right now, but instead dude went to go do Solo. And like, don't get me wrong, if somebody was like, hey, you want to be Lando Calrissian, that's a hard part to say no to, but Solo was a terrible movie. We could have had season 3 of Atlanta already, team. The last line of Sharon Anita's piece, Sharon is from Chicago, Illinois, and this was sorry, I also think about this a lot, how I even worry about whether I'm reading someone's words properly versus consuming them. I mean, especially when so much of these pieces, so much of the core of these pieces is about, like we talked about before, like this core of somebody's experience. I'm not going to be able to speak to what it's like to be trans if I'm putting my voice, my experiences, my pain into this piece that like specifically is channeling this like queer or trans experience. Like, and I don't know, you know. But again, I'm happy to sit in that greenhouse and take a seat if / when that time comes, because I think we can all stand to benefit from learning from folks. So this is a piece from Sharon Anita. I learned early that I was at home in music. I easily get lost in various rhythms and enjoy going on the emotional journeys that each piece can take me. Having the consistent drums gives me a sense of safety and lull me into enough of a trance to either escape my current reality or put to words what I'm feeling when I can't do it alone. In my last gig, I toured for 8.5 years teaching rape prevention on college campuses and military bases. By the time I left, I was only averaging 3 to 7 days home a month. The combination of the taxing subject matter and the constant travel took a toll on my mental health. Sorry, I guess I should have given a heads up there that would be a bit of a warning. Thankfully, I discovered something called radical self-care, which I don't find to be radical at all. Literally, it says H-E in there, which is great. To me, it's just the idea of doing something you love for yourself every single day. Whether it's a favorite food, a petty, a living room dance party, or sleeping into a seemingly ridiculous hour, I purposefully seek out something that brings me joy on a regular basis. It's gotten to the point now that I refuse to do anything that doesn't bring me at least a modicum of joy. Outsourcing does wonders with accomplishing tasks, I've found. My favorite discovery once I started the practice of radical self-care is the more I treat myself with love, the more everyone who enters my space follows suit. My favorite discovery once I started the practice of radical self-care is the more I treat myself with love, the more everyone who enters my space follows suit. Like, that was just like one of those sentences that I read it and I was like, well, I'm just gonna lay here and think about that for a minute. And I think the part that makes that concept, the more I think about it, the deeper it feels, right? Because like the word love, right? And there have been people who've written essays, I'm sure there's some cliche stuff about sort of the ways that like in other cultures and other languages there are multiple words for various types of love, right? But we in English, we have the word love, and then we have to contextualize it. We have to interpret what that love means based on any number of contextual cues, the people who are involved, the situation we're talking about. Like, it's this one broad concept, and then we have to define in instead of having these particular concepts, right? Which in some ways feels like it is speaking to I guess in some ways when I interpret that, it feels like, oh, we just didn't give a shit, huh? We were just like, oh, here's a big box called love, and just throw all the shit in there. Is it romantic? Is it platonic? Is it agape? Is it you love pasta? Is it you love your cat? Is it you love whatever? It all goes in this box, which feels reckless. But there's also then something about, I think there's also something that's interesting in the idea of sort of identifying for yourself what fits in that box and what that box's place is at a particular time, right? The idea that the more that you treat yourself with love, this giant effing box that could be representative of like any number of things. I love snowboarding, I love video games, I love my mom, I love my partner, like I love getting unexpected discounts at the grocery store. But then it's like the more that I find those experiences that represent love to me, and the more that I treat myself with those situations, the more that I find that the people around me will also treat me with those situations that I define as love. That's part of the process, is like us figuring out and prioritizing the importance of discovering what's in that box for us. There are things that I am going to love that you may not, right? Like it's just the nature of human existence. And like, if I keep surrounding myself with things that represent your love, things that represent love for you, but don't represent love for me, things that fit in your box and not mine, well, how can I be surprised when people continue to treat me with those things? I've put them in the box. People who care about me are probably trying to learn, oh, you put this in the box, that's what you love. Well, let me give you that thing. That's because I care about you. But if I don't care about me enough to put the right things in that box, I shouldn't be surprised at all when I end up kind of unhappy. Well, okay. Sorry. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Reckless Love is my new hit single. Yeah, but also society is like, establishing boundaries is bad. Asking for people to treat you well, bad. So I think it's a lot to overcome. I do agree there, Llama. It's not simple. It is something I am super actively grappling with. And I think, again, this is another one of those spaces where I feel like, particularly for folks on the margins, I think, I'm sure in many ways, many of us grapple with this in a bunch of ways. But I think a lot of us who are socialized to exist in the margins will oftentimes take on roles or ideas that have us sideline our own priorities in favor of somebody else's. And if you can just keep doing that forever, I suppose you never have a conflict. But find that it's not what happens to me consistently. Here's another piece from another piece from that same section, from healing, and this is from Kilam Tel Aviv. Writing heals me. I once read the phrase "live life intentionally." Unable to get it out of my head, I began to question what my intentions are for the world I live in. The conclusion I came to was to encourage people to share their stories. So often in life, we only get the abridged version of a story filled with the agenda and personal bias of a third party's interpretation or results. It's almost impossible for anyone to accept information unless it already confirms or resonates with an experience they've already had. The neat version of life only serves to confirm closely held biases and to cover over what is uncomfortable, ugly, and real. Writing allows me to share the uncomfortable realities of my experience as an African American male. I hope that through sharing my writing and reading the truth of others, we can all understand the complex, painful, and beautiful world we share. Sounds like a quick path to a breakdown. Yeah, it does. Initiative, it really does. Like, oh. Here's a piece from Kenyatta J.P. Garcia. And again, I think that one of the things that I really love about this book are the wide ranges of experiences here. I don't put much effort into healing myself. I worry that I'm beyond healing. I do my best to avoid wounds, but that doesn't always work. So when I do need to heal, it's a slow process, sure to leave plenty of scars. I hide behind socializing. I talk, I text, I post. I get it all out there. I lay myself bare and let the scavengers feast upon that which is good for the feasting. Then I take what's left of me and move on. I regenerate more so than heal. I'll become whole again by being partially new. I don't forget what I've lost, but I look to the future, however absurd that might be with all its repetition, and prepare myself to carry on. For me, it's all about time and exposure. I don't take space. I insert myself into social situations and hope that my problems will feel less significant. I don't trust advice, but I like conversation. Words have abilities that go beyond both their meaning and intent. I put my will to exist into the care and consideration of language. Silence might be safe, but it'll never save me. Silence might be safe, but it'll never save me. And I think that there are ways that people, it's just real genuine honesty in here. You know, it's about creating these spaces where you can say like, yeah, sorry, I guess I'm busted. This isn't some idealized whatever. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm living right now. And I think being able to create a book, being able to create a space where people are willing to come together and share that level of deep honesty is really incredible. Let's see if I can find one more that I think is a good wrap up. This is from I think I want to do one from this last section, Origins. And it's interesting that the section that they use to close the book is Origins. I think this one's actually really cool. Is this the one I think this is it. Okay, there are two of them. This first one's pretty short. This is by Shay Young from Las Vegas, Nevada. Nevada? I don't know. Firestar, are you out there? Help me. My inheritance is light. Gold and turquoise light from a time that is timeless. A space that has no space. And to come through a womb and be birthed here on Earth, that is my inheritance. The fact that I'm even here, and you're here, and we're all here. This is my inheritance. Because this didn't have to happen, you know? Each day is like that. I'm always finding myself in really groovy situations saying, damn, I didn't have to be here. I could have been sitting around depressed in my house or whatever. But the breath, me breathing, is my inheritance. I think that's what keeps us going. It's the small things, the simple things that keep us going. And knowing things like there's joy in your heart, that's inheritance. And water, that's huge. I just love that where it's like, it's all real theoretical. But then also like, water's a big deal. Yeah. And then I think the last one that I'll read will be from Natasha Marin, who was the curator of the book. One more time, this is Black Imagination, which you can find here. This is from Natasha Marin, who's out in Seattle, Washington. Many stories begin once upon a time, but this one begins despite and beyond time. Can you remove time from this narrative entirely? Can you spread the idea of one distinct origin across all potential temporal directions, well past, beyond past, and future? Can you visualize the concurrent bursting into existence across all possible points of time for one individual? Despite and beyond time, I am. In this way, I am both the creator and the created. I am also the witness. My lifetime is a portion of my existence, but there is no totality there. A caterpillar is a past tense butterfly, and a butterfly is a future tense caterpillar. With or without wings, more than one reality can exist when temporality is not centralized. So despite and beyond time, there is at all times a black woman who is creating herself. Knees bent, palms open, her focus is her power. Whatever she realizes comes into manifestation before her. She must also consistently witness herself in order to continue to exist. She is her own God out of necessity. Without her, there is nothing, no story to record. Here she is now, in your mind's eye, humming deeply in her belly a joyful song that doesn't rely on words. Weaving. The bright patterns that emerge from her fingertips are the fruit of our entire existence. The cosmic fabric she weaves is made of thread, or binary code, or ancient DNA gene sequences, or something else entirely. Substance is the material of everything around us. We are unlimited by the limits of our current understanding of our abilities. We persist. We have persisted. We will continue with or without acknowledgement. Just freaking wild. And to be able to make this space where, again, we have this blending of spaces that are more direct more sort of like colloquial layman's language, and then places that are more poetic and more theoretical and more abstract, and like being able to bring all of those together in one space where you can say like, this is me, and all of these experiences in one way or another are a part of me. Like that is it at least for me, you know. I think there's something that like I just kept reading this and thinking like, again, this is my birthright. For all of the pain and the struggle and the chaos, but there's also this triumph and resilience and creativity and energy and consciousness, and it's just, I'm very thankful, Betsy, that you sent me this book.